First, though, here at 4, school boards across the country have been in the spotlight, taking on controversial topics around race, identity, and politics. In several recent cases here, those boards have gone so far as firing superintendents who did not agree with the boards. 2 of those local superintendents spoke today about their firings and the future of education. Christine Pitawanich listened in to that conversation and joins us now. Christine.
Yeah, the City Club of Portland had 2 guest speakers, both former superintendents, and both fired after new school board members were elected.
School boards have seemingly become ground zero for some of the most incendiary debates in public education, not just in Oregon, but across our country.
Recently, school boards have become political lightning rods in many communities. You don't have to look far to see an example right here in Oregon. Last year, the Newburgh School Board voted to ban political symbols like Black Lives Matter signs or pride flags. That sparked a months-long controversy that led to the superintendent being fired and a failed recall for 2 board members who pushed for the ban. That fired superintendent, Dr. Joe Morlock, spoke at the Portland City Club about the state of school boards in Oregon. He was joined by Melissa Goff, a former superintendent at Greater Albany Public Schools. Both were fired after new conservative members were elected to their local school boards.
When some new folks came in, different priorities were set.
The state of education discussion touched on a number of topics. One of them, interest groups swaying school board elections.
And school board races are attracting a record amount of money.
What is now happening, however, is you are seeing the 2 major political parties digging in around candidates for school board. That never happened before.
School districts' efforts to promote equity was another point of conversation.
The focus around equity made some people upset right there. Well, how come those kids are getting more than my kid?
Both Morlock and Goff say they hope there will be more oversight of decisions made at the school board level. In fact, there are bills in the Oregon legislature right now seeking to do just that. One of the bills that just passed the Oregon Senate would protect superintendents from being fired without cause and when they're complying with state and federal laws. Another piece of legislation in the House would give the Oregon Ethics Commission the ability to hold school boards more accountable. Back to you.
Christine, thank you. Now to a troubling statistic out of Multnomah County. In the last 2 years, more than 200 people have been attacked for the color of their skin, their religion, or their sexual orientation. That's according to a new bias crimes dashboard. Our Mike Benner joins us now, and Mike, the Multnomah County District Attorney just released this dashboard.
Yeah, that's right, Ashley. District Attorney Mike Schmidt says bias crimes or hate crimes tear at the fabrics of entire communities. But nothing will change if we don't acknowledge these awful things happen in the community. The Bias Crimes Dashboard not only acknowledges the hate, it breaks it down. The dashboard tells us where these incidents are happening, if they're being prosecuted, and what's at the center of these attacks. For instance, gender identity is behind 15% of the bias crimes over the last 2 years. Religion, behind 5% of the crimes. Multnomah County District Attorney Mike Schmidt says releasing these statistics validates what so many in our community are going through and shows that law enforcement supports them. Nancy Hawk of Basic Rights Oregon, a nonprofit that looks out for LGBTQ Oregonians, is glad the DA launched this dashboard.
I think it's really important for us to have the information because a lot of times people don't understand that the risks that LGBTQ people feel, the risk that LGBTQ people of color feel walking through Portland, Oregon. And I think it really matters for us to say, like, no, here are the numbers. People in our community are being hurt because of who they are.
All right, we know a lot of you may want to take a closer look at this dashboard and read more about it, so we've posted a link on our website, KGW.com. Brittany?
All right, Mike, thanks so much. After nearly 2 years of struggling to meet historic need amid the pandemic, Oregon's rent assistance program is about to go under a microscope. Here's Maggie Vespa.
Fresh eyes and a critical look at rent assistance in Oregon coming courtesy of the Secretary of State. Shemia Fagan's office this week announcing a full audit of the system, which for months during the pandemic struggled. to get checks out the door.
It's terrifying every single day.
KGW has talked to several renters who, amid a massive backlog, waited months for their money.
Will I be able to keep my kids in the same school, in the same home?
Wanted to make just on accountability.
In December, state lawmakers demanded more scrutiny on the rent assistance system.
I've heard it called a lot of things, but I've never heard it called successful.
The head of the agency tasked with doling out rent checks assured lawmakers they'd made major gains. As of November 2021, Oregon had given out emergency assistance to nearly 20,000 renters and was now fifth in the nation for dispensing aid quickly. Oregon went through $298 million in federal funds so fast, state lawmakers allocated another $100 million to keep the system running. Still, some weren't satisfied.
I understand that you are, in addition to that, you are open to the idea of a third-party review.
Accountability is important.
Margaret Salazar there, who has since been tapped as a regional housing administrator under the Biden administration, had one request.
So we are absolutely happy to have those conversations. We think that they would be most appropriate after September 2022, when we see a lot of the programming that you all are considering come to a close.
But Oregon's Secretary of State isn't waiting until September. Her office telling the Oregonian they've heard concerns about technical challenges with rental assistance software and public communication challenges. State officials don't know how long the audit will take, but they say rent assistance will continue to be dispensed as usual while it gets underway. Maggie Vespa, KGW News.
Local health leaders are weighing in on changes coming to COVID restrictions. Yesterday, Washington Governor Jay Inslee announced the state's outdoor mask mandate will end February 18th. He also promised an update on the indoor mask mandate next week. Clark County Public Health Director Dr. Alan Melnick says that while cases and hospitalizations are dropping locally, it is not the time to be careless. He says it's important to remember that case rates are still much higher than they've been at any other point in the pandemic, and hospitals are still very close to capacity.
We're all fatigued from the measures we've been all through for the last 2 years. But we're also happy, and we're seeing light at the end of the tunnel, perhaps, of the numbers going down. So I think a little more patience on this, and doing what you can do to protect yourself, I think is really important to do.
Dr. Melnick does hope more people will continue getting vaccinated. Earlier this week, Oregon health officials announced plans to drop the indoor mask mandate for businesses and schools by March 31st. Well, for those looking for a free COVID test or vaccine, Virginia Garcia Medical Center has reopened its testing and vaccine clinics. You do not need insurance, but you do have to have an appointment. The testing sites are at the Hillsborough and McMinnville locations. The vaccine clinics are at the Beaverton, Cornelius, and Newburgh sites. You can find more information and times at virginiagarcia.org.
All right, Rip City, today we are hearing from Portland Trailblazers leadership for the first time since the team made a flurry of trades. Interim General Manager Joe Cronin says the current roster had plateaued. Wanting to move ahead, he said the best way was trading key players like CJ McCollum, Norman Powell, and Robert Covington. Cronin says it's creating more flexibility to gain other talent, but knows building the team back up is going to be tough.
Our goal is to be aggressive this spring and summer and put together a really competitive roster right out of the gate. Damian's been great. We've been communicating. He communicates with Chauncey and I constantly, and he's fully caught up with what our plans are and were.
And Cronin says that we can expect the Blazers to be aggressive this offseason.